Imagine leaving LA at 9 in the morning and getting to San Francisco around 11:30 while helping the environment and clearing up the freeways. Well, if the high-speed rail is built as planned by 2035, we may not need to imagine. Well, it looks like our star can rest easy tonight. Her big premiere went well, and there were lots of great ideas about water-smart gardens. This is Steve Scifo reporting. Beatboxing, which you normally hear in hip-hop music, is probably one of the last things you'd expect to see at a convention like this. But these guys, Project Trio, make it work. This piece is called Dr. Nick. Check it out. Despite economic limitations, the fire department is proud to say that this 4th of July, there were no structure fires. These paintings take us back to a much simpler time when Garden Grove had a totally different look. And Bonnie Dillingham tells us her father's work is a colorful snapshot of the city's history. This is Steve Scifo with the Channel 3 News Update. Last Thursday, hundreds of people were stunned at a Santa Ana intersection. 22-year-old Brian Ortega spent 6 hours on top of this traffic signal at the corner of Bristol and Segerstrom. For some onlookers, it was amusing, but not for police.
There was some difficulties with the crowd trying to incite the individual to jump, which we had to deal with on several different occasions.
Ortega's family told Santa Ana police that just 48 hours earlier he was released from a local mental hospital, and right away he was back to dangerous habits.
He hasn't slept, and he's been using what they call triple C. I'm not sure what kind of narcotics that is. He was basically on a binge.
Dealing with a public disturbance was enough of a challenge, but Santa Ana police say today's incident pulled other resources away from their duties.
We had probably 15 to 20 police officers, motor officers, 3 hostage negotiators that were off duty. There was probably 15, 20 fire paramedics here.
Officers tried to negotiate. They offered him water. The city of Santa Ana brought in a crane. But it seemed nothing could bring Ortega back to the ground, until his grandfather finally convinced him. Ortega was taken to the hospital and placed under a 72-hour hold for psychiatric evaluation. This is Steve Scifo with a Channel 3 News Update. Today, budding artists of all ages got a chance to explore their creativity, and the beautiful Stanley Ranch made for a perfect setting to learn a little calligraphy, so let's see how their lesson went.
So they were called the framers of the Constitution.
Garden Grove substitute teacher and Thursday's art instructor Mickey Reinerton explained some of the history behind calligraphy, how our country's forefathers wrote the Constitution so beautifully it was as if they were framing a picture. But apparently the same can't always be said about Reinerton's penmanship.
Just by handwriting itself, I can't read it, so consequently I do almost everything in lettering, in printing.
While students tried their hand at this artistic form of writing, they learned other fundamentals as well.
I learned how to make the details really blend in with the pictures.
No need for a pop quiz. These kids were definitely paying attention.
If the sun is hitting one part, then the shade on the other side.
Reinerton tells us people love to drop by and enjoy their hobby on a warm summer day. And some of his pupils have even made a living as artists.
One designs cars in Detroit, and a number of them are sign painters.
Whether it's inspiring kids to pick up their sketch pad or reminding grown-ups it's never too late to learn, Reinerton feels he is both fulfilling his passion and sharing it with others. This is Steve Scifo reporting. L3 Power Paragon is known worldwide for designing military and commercial aircraft parts and technology. Although our cameras weren't allowed in the facility, we got a pretty good idea of what happens inside during our conversation with Congresswoman Loretta Sanchez.
People work very hard here. We're very precise. We're tested to the best abilities, NASA rated, if you will.
One product Congresswoman Sanchez got to see is a special hybrid engine for Navy submarines. The engine is compact and efficient, allowing for more space in our ships.
We're coming to take a look at that and some of the new programs they've come up with.
From an economic standpoint, one of the most encouraging things about L3 is the amount of growth the company is experiencing.
We've gone probably from about 9 employees to about over 300, I'm sure, because of the new programs and new innovation coming out of here.
Between Santa Ana, Fullerton, Anaheim, and Garden Grove, one of the largest manufacturing bases for high-tech parts used in aerospace, NASA, and national defense, is right in our own backyard. And although many industries are still struggling in this economy,
that whole innovation and technology agenda that we're striving for here in Orange County, this is a prime example of what happens and how people get jobs when we invest in that.
This is Steve Scifo reporting.
Daniel was a man of character.
Sergeant Daniel Lim's godfather, Han O, tells us the 23-year-old was proud to serve his country, and through it all, the 2005 graduate of Garden Grove's Pacifica High School maintained a great attitude.
And not once, though, he ever complained about being scared or regret that he's being there, or the hardship that he endures. None of that came out.
Instead, Daniel stayed positive, and those who knew him enjoyed his upbeat personality.
22-year-old, he's just a fun-loving guy. The testimony is that all his friends of the unit revered him and really cherished him, and getting the calls we're getting from those guys is really, it's a representation of who Daniel was, or is, still in our hearts.
Han tells us there were many great things about Daniel, but what really defined him was his passion.
Passion to serve. Not only as a military service, but to serve anybody.
Daniel spent 31 months in Korea before going to Afghanistan with the 5th Battalion, 3rd Field Artillery Regiment. He was killed last Saturday in the city of Kalat by insurgents with an improvised explosive device. And as soon as people heard the news, the calls started coming in.
We got calls coming in from Seoul, and some of the units that he served in Seoul, out of Fort Hood, out of Fort Lewis, so it was very good for us to hear that.
This is Steve Scifo reporting.
You see a child playing by themselves, you go play with that child, and you wrap your arms around them.
California Senator Lou Correa is part of a select committee designed to gather information on communities affected by autism, a neurological disorder that affects the normal functioning of the brain, especially in social interaction. The committee is asking important questions about lifestyle and well-being.
How do we make them fit into our communities, get them productive jobs, and how do they continue to live with their families?
The committee hopes to answer these questions through a statewide series of town hall meetings. They also want to raise awareness in the cities they visit about the challenges people with autism face and how important it is to create a sense of belonging.
These are part of our community, our families. Let's give them love and direction and take care of them.
Today we were expecting to meet Senator Lou Correa, but we had no idea we would also meet a remarkable girl who didn't let autism stop her from forming her own company at just 15 years old.
And then met up a young boy right there. His name is Davey.
Danny Bowman was so confident and eager to talk, it was like working with another reporter. Danny illustrates, writes, and voice acts 9 different cartoon series, and several production companies are interested in bringing them to network and cable TV.
And this is my part in news promotional posters. It really means that my goal is to change the world's perception of autism and shows like potential that autistic individuals like me have.
Senator Correa wants to help improve programs and services for autistic people so others may find the sense of fulfillment Danny has achieved. This is Steve Scifo reporting.